Video really goes out to all UNC basketball fans. I'm gonna explain the multiple reasons why UNC is having a really bad year and just has so many expectations but hasn't been able to put it together. Now, one thing I believe about this UNC team is we do have some of the best talent in all of college basketball, but there's a reason why we've not been able to put it together and win some big games. So we're going to start off with what many people believe is UNC's problem, and that is the head coach, Hubert Davis, who is trying to make new moves. He said he was going to hire a GM. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, or if it happens, when it's going to happen, and if it does happen, is Hubert Davis even going to be around to see what happens? Because there is a chance he will get fired this offseason. But back to the main point here, I think this first problem is Hubert Davis not knowing the standards of UNC basketball. It's the greatest college basketball program in the history of college basketball. And I believe Hubert Davis should know it. He played on these teams back in the 80s. He was even an NBA player, solid player for a couple years. So for all UNC fans that want to get rid of Hubert Davis immediately, it's not about his coaching of the game basketball. I believe he's a really, really good basketball coach. But UNC every year has so much expectations, and Hubert Davis just hasn't gotten his team ready, especially with a very young team this year. He just hasn't gotten his team ready for the national spotlight, and that has been a huge problem for the Tar Heels. One of the reasons why we don't win these big games and always get off to really bad starts. That brings us into the second problem, which is the lack of leadership. We can all agree on this one, but I'm going to take a little deeper of a dive into it. RJ Davis is the best player on this team. He's the most experienced player on this team, and he's the oldest player on this team, a reason why he should be the leader of this team. But we've seen this same problem come up time and time again this year, and a notable mention is earlier in the season, just actually a week ago in a game against Pitt. And yeah, we do play Pitt again tomorrow. But UNC was down by a couple points with a couple minutes left, and Pitt was huddling up with their team and all that type of stuff, while UNC just looked completely drained, and you could tell by their body language that they pretty much already have lost the game. Davis, as the leader, should have stepped up. He should have got them together, but he didn't do that. You could tell RJ Davis, he was just off to the side with his hands on his knees looking at the ground. But then you look at the reasons why RJ Davis wouldn't be stepping up as the leader this year, and there's only one logical reason why. That one reason is the loss of UNC all-time great Armando Bacot, who went down as one of the best Tar Heels of all time. And yeah, I can confidently sit here right now and say Bacot's the second best Tar Heel of all time, because guys like James Worthy, Sam Perkins, and Michael Jordan, widely considered some of the other best Tar Heels of all time, all played together for multiple years. And then when you look at who Bacot played with, I mean, Cole Anthony for a year, Walker Kessler for a little. He had Caleb Love and RJ Davis. And Bacot was the leader of this team, and he was one of the reasons that RJ Davis was such a good player and still really is a good player. But the problem is with Bacot being gone, this UNC team is so inconsistent where Hubert Davis pretty much has to put out a new lineup every single game. There's a new starting center every game. It's either Van Allen Lubin or Jalen Washington, and neither of them are anywhere close to what Armando Bacot was for this team. Now, since we're closing in on the final stretch of the season, RJ has to propel this team into somehow getting into the March Madness tournament. Because I believe if UNC sneaks in as like a 9-10 seed, maybe even an 8 seed or something like that, with the talent that this team has, we can put together some good wins in March Madness and maybe put together a very scary run. But it's really all going to start with seeing how RJ Davis prepares himself and gets this team ready along with Hubert Davis for this massive game tomorrow against Pitt. Pitt is a bubble team just like UNC, and they need this win just as bad as UNC. So trust me, this game is going to be easy, and UNC will win this game if we approach it right and RJ Davis can step up as a leader, not just scoring the basketball like what he does so well, but also getting his team easy ways to score the basketball. And then the final point of this rebounding, and it's another thing to do with Armando Bacot, it is the rebounding. Armando Bacot is the all-time leader in double-doubles at UNC. I believe the all-time leader in double-doubles in the ACC and maybe up there all-time in all of college basketball. He was just a beast on the glass. He did it every single game. Offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, he did all of it. Jalen Washington, who started about 70% of UNC games this year at center, is 6'10", 235. Armando Bacot's 6'10", 240, and you might be saying, what's the difference? That's 5 pounds, and they're the exact same height. Bacot has a different type of build than Washington. Bacot's more of like a strong build, and he is a stronger player in general. While Jalen Washington's build is more skinny, and he doesn't really fight for balls as much as Bacot. Pause. And then we come to Van Allen Lubin, the backup center from the Tar Heels. He was a transfer from Vanderbilt. He's just 6'8", 230. The interesting thing about Lubin, though, is he's a bigger build than Jalen Washington, and he's a better rebounder than Jalen Washington. But something in basketball that's not talked about that much is decision-making after you get a rebound. And that is Van Allen Lubin's problem. He gets the ball after getting a rebound, turns and puts up a bad shot or passes it out, and it easily gets stolen. He's just not strong with the ball, and he turns the ball over so much, never gives a reliable center for UNC out there. But then with UNC not having a great center out there and always being so worried about giving up the paint, it always opens up three-point shooting for those teams that we play. We saw it the other day against Boston College, where they nearly dropped 100 points and upset us on the road. So yeah, in my opinion, it's really those three things. Hubert Davis not really getting his guys ready for the national spotlight, a lack of leadership and just not stepping up from RJ Davis, and then third and finally, the rebounding from guys like Van Allen Lubin and Jalen Washington. And then fourth, not having the presence of Armando Bacot out there is just a killer for this team. I love Bacot so much, and it sucks that he's no longer a Tar Heel. But UNC is going to have to find a way to get over it eventually, and it has to happen soon. If UNC can't get anything together tomorrow, Davis is likely going to run into his final 10 games as Tar Heel. Likely a couple games in the ACC tournament, and then the final 8 regular season games, not counting the game against Pitt tomorrow, because we're counting after that game or during that game, whatever you want to say. So with all this talent and the young guys, potentially Drake Powell, Ian Jackson, Elliot Cadeau going to the NBA next year as lottery picks, we've got to put something together, and I truly believe if we can get over these three things, UNC has a chance to be a sneaky national championship contender. It might sound crazy, but it's true. Leave all of your guys' thoughts, if you're a Tar Heels fan, in the comments below.